Hello friends, my name's Emile and welcome back to some more Reach the Peak, the show where you guys recommend the cars and then I take them up our twisty hill climb course to see which one can come out on top. Today we have 5 cars here for you today and we're going to be starting with a Group B hero. This here is the 1986 Audi Sport Quattro S1. 469 horsepower, 354 foot-pound of torque, 2,403 pounds of weight. It is an S1 class car, it is 896 in PI, it is our lightest vehicle here today, it is also the highest in PI. So, the Sport Quattro is essentially the, I believe it's the Group B version of the Audi Quattro, essentially. This is the actual Group B rally car variant, similar to the Lancia Delta S4, rally car version and the Stratos. So, the Quattro, what is it actually like to drive? Well, you hear these stories of these Group B cars being absolutely mental, uncontrollable machines with way too much horsepower and just having very, very awkward, darty handling. The Quattro is an extremely easy car to drive. This thing is, anyone could drive this Quattro up this hill and have no issues with it whatsoever, you know. Compared to some of the other Group B cars, I mean, 469 horsepower isn't that much compared to some of the ones we've had up here. And it's nowhere near as light as some of those. It hasn't got a shorter wheelbase, it isn't shorter than them, so, you know, this is the most sort of normal Group B car, if you will. And as a result, it's very easy, very lovely to drive. If I had a criticism, it's probably not quite as quick as maybe you'd expect Group B car to be. You know, in terms of outright performance in a straight line, the Metro will smoke this thing. 205 T16 upgrade hero. You know, that'll have its way with it. But, you know, as far as a car to just drive out the box, you know, good car, the Quattro is good. You know, it does cost a fair bit. This is quite a common wheel spin price though, so yeah, if you wanted something that's relatively easy to just throw up the hill, then the Quattro is a good choice for you. Next up, we have the 2006 Mitsubishi Lancer EVO IX, 286 horsepower, 289 foot-pound of torque, 3,285 pounds of weight. This is an A-class car, 763 in PI. It is the lowest PI vehicle here today. It's also the least powerful, however, of course, it does have four-wheel drive, because it is an Evo. Out of all of the Mitsubishi Evos, the 9 is definitely one of my favourites. I would say it's between the 9 and the Tommy Mackinnon Edition Evo 6. I'm going to put most of that down to Need for Speed Carbon with the Evo 9. You know, this car was one of the poster cars. It had like a Scorpio's livery on it. Unfortunately, no one's created that for Horizon 3 yet, so I've just sort of put this car in purple. But, you know, it is a very good... So it's a great looking car. Anyways, the Evo 9 to drive, it's decent. I mean, the closest comparison we can really make to this car going up the hill would be the 22B in stock form, which we had go up in like episode 6, I believe it was. You know, compared to the 22B, this handles a little bit more understeery than the 22B, but respectively this is a bit quicker in a straight line, so... ultimately choosing between the two, you know, it's no contest for me. I just prefer the Evo 9 over the 22B Impreza. That sort of first-gen Impreza body style, which everyone really likes, I'm just not a fan of that sort of particular style of it. You know, I appreciate it's a very good car and all, but yeah, the Evo 9 would definitely be my choice of the two. But if you go looking at it from a purely objective standpoint, like, oh hey, I need a car to drive up this hill, which one would you recommend? Again, it just lays down to personal preference. You know, between this and the 22B, most people would probably go with the 22B, and I wouldn't fault them for it. As far as tarmac goes, 22B is the slightly better of the two. So, I guess, if you're asking me which one was better to drive, the 22B marginally, but, you know, again, that's very marginally. Yeah, Evo, if you want a rally car, there it is. There's thousands of these things to pick one. Just choose your favourite, essentially. They all drive fairly similar. Next up, we have a bit of Aussie muscle for the first time in a while. We have the 2015 Ford Falcon XR8, 449 horsepower, 420 foot-pounds of torque, 4,096 pounds of weight. It's an A-class car, 799 in PI, and it's our first rear-wheel drive car of today. So, this particular generation of Ford Falcon is actually probably one of my favourites. I really like sort of the modern Ford Mondeo slash Ford Fusion styling, and the Falcon is essentially that, with a slightly duller rear end put on it and a lot more power and rear wheel drive. So yeah, naturally I do quite like the XR8 Falcon. I've always kind of been a fan of sort of these later gen Australian muscle cars, if you will. I do really like the Ford Falcons of sort of later years, and even like the HSV GTS and so on. They're all really cool cars to me. Anyways, as far as comparing this vehicle to anything, again, we're going to have to go for the HSV GTS. That's the closest thing to this thing. They both sit in relatively the same class. You know, they're both Aussie muscle cars. Admittedly, the HSV has a huge PI advantage because it has a huge power advantage. That being said, going up the hill, power isn't necessarily what you want, and the XR8 kind of found that out the hard way. It does have a bit too much power for its own good going up here. You know, it does weigh a lot, it has a lot of power, and as far as climbing this hill, that's not really a good mixture, unless you have four-wheel drive, of course. As a result, the XR8 didn't drive particularly well. It was better than a HSV GTS, it was better than the Maloo as well, because we've had that, and they're very similar vehicles. Ultimately, though, yeah, this thing really could have done with less power. It's sort of sacrilege to say that about a muscle car, but yeah, I mean, it's a solid enough car. I've driven it on tarmac enough. It's a modern muscle car, really. I mean, you can tame this thing fairly easily. You know, it's not like taming a Hellcat, for example. You know, taming a Hellcat is a little bit tricky, but as far as taming the Falcon goes, you know, you put some tyres on it, stick some aero on it, and I'm sure it would be a fine vehicle, although probably still not a particularly good rally vehicle. Next up, speaking of Hellcats, we go to a very, very mental muscle car indeed. This is the 2015 Dodge Challenger Hellcat. 707 horsepower, 650 foot-pounds of torque, 4,438 pounds of weight, S1 class car, 843 in PI. It is the most powerful vehicle here today, it's the torquiest vehicle here today, and it's the heaviest vehicle here today, and that's not a particularly good mixture when you consider this thing is, of course, running rear-wheel drive. So, the Hellcat. Out of all of the sorts of modern muscle cars, the GT350R, the Z28 and the Hellcat just seems sort of out of place. You know, those vehicles are built with more handling in mind. This thing is built with huge amounts of power, and I appreciate it for its lunacy, although I do kind of wish Chrysler would sort of get with the times a little bit. That being said, I do like the Hellcat. Personally, for me, I prefer the Charger Hellcat over the Challenger Hellcat, just because I prefer sorts of saloon cars that are relatively practical and also mental. But I'm not taking away from this thing. This thing's great. As far as how is it to drive? Oh, you better be careful. It drives basically how you'd expect a Hellcat to handle the snow. It just spins and spins and spins, and if you're not careful, it will try to kill you. There is no getting around that. I mean, it can be fine if you are extremely careful. If you're extremely careful, it's fine. You know, it won't try to kill you too much. It'll let you off with a bit of a pass. But you really need to make sure you're driving it very carefully. If you step on the throttle at the wrong time, if you're in the wrong gear at the wrong time, it will just throw you out. You know, people say about, oh, you know, maybe you should be sort of short shifting up here to get the most traction. That doesn't really work with a Hellcat. You know, in theory you can put more power down if you're in a lower gear, right? Well, no, because the Hellcat will just spit you out if you try and do that. It is, you can sort of see me short shifting with it a little bit here. I try not to, just because short shifting does affect the times more negatively than you'd think. But with Hellcat, you kind of need to do it occasionally. Yeah, it does drive how you'd expect. It is a mental thing, and I wasn't surprised in that sense. finally today we have, well, one of the Midnight Racer unicorn cars, I guess. This is the 1997 BMW M3 E36 Coupe, 321 horsepower, 258 foot-pounds of torque, 3,219 pounds of weight, A-Class car, 773 MPI. It is the least torquey vehicle here today, ironically. Yeah, the Evo was the least powerful, this has the least amount of torque. So let's talk E36 M3s. Not a fan of the M3s usually. My favourite M3s as of recording this right now are probably like the E30 and the E36. E36 probably being my favourite. I just kind of like the way the E36 looks. Also, I should quickly mention this design, it isn't finished. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. I just sort of didn't find a paint job that I particularly liked for this car, so I was like, hey, I'll try and throw something together. It's just a bunch of squares really, but there you go. Anyways, also I think this is the only car today that actually has a a design on it in total. I mean, the Audi comes with it stock, but anyways, the M3, yeah, E30 and E36 are probably my favourites. I'm not a huge M3 fan. I'm not a huge BMW fan, to be honest with you. They're just sort of soulless boxes to me, really. But that's just me personally. As far as actually driving the E36, it's alright. It's very similar to the other rear-wheel drive coupes we've had up here, you know, Toyota Supra, Hyundai Genesis spring to mind. It will slide, there's no getting around that. It is rear-wheel drive, it has a fair amount of power, it's gonna kick its rear end around, and M3s do that from standard. But as far as on sort of normal ground, the E36 and the E30 are sort of the most controllable of the M3s. The E46 can get very wayward if you let it, and I believe the E92 is a similar sort of way. Once you start putting power into these things, they do go sideways. If you want a drift car, E36 is E36 is always the car I build if I need a drift car, essentially, just because I know I can get these things to slide. So yeah, that might not be conclusive to going up the hill well, though. It's an alright car, though. I mean, I wouldn't take it snow racing personally, but you know, and choosing between the Supra, the Genesis, and this, it ultimately just comes down to what your personal preference is, which most would probably go for the Supra. Anyways, on to the times for today, and the Audi Quattro is the fastest car today, going into fourth with a 202.222, beats the Peugeot 205 T16 by 1,000th of a second. Yeah, that I'm not joking either. That was the actual time that came out. I was quite shocked at that. But fourth is a really good place for that vehicle. Does lose out to the Evo 6 upgrade hero slightly. Sort of onto the contingent of cars today. 37th Ford Falcon 216.136 does beat a Lotus 340R. The Evo 9 just comes up short on the 22B, going to 40th with a 216.870, which is not a bad time at all. Does beat a Shelby Raptor by over a second. And the E36 goes into 42nd with a 218.071, which is actually a pretty darn respectable time. Beats the BAC Mono. Beats the Viper GTS, that'll also beat the Supra and the Genesis by about 3 seconds, I think. So yeah, pretty darn good time actually from the E36. You wouldn't really expect it to be that good from the way it drives, but there you go. And finally today we find the Challenger Hellcat in 50th place with a 219.973, which certainly isn't bad when you consider handling issues that car. It is 0.5 seconds slower than the V600 Vantage. It's 0.7 seconds up on the Subaru. 0.6 up on the Galant. Yeah, solid time from the Hellcat, which I wasn't expecting. Anyways, friends, that is it for this episode of Reach the Peak. I do hope you've enjoyed. As always, if you have cars you'd like to recommend for this series, simply leave them down below in the comments section. With that all being said and done, friends, thank you all very much for watching. My name's been the Real Emile, and until next time, a farewell.